Well, hello, Shiny Crafty People. Tim Totten here. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to share with you a special style mask that only uses one strap of elastic around your head. Now, you've seen in a previous video here, a strap that went around the top of your head. However, I want to show you one that I was inspired to make after watching one of my very favorite things after sewing, which is football. You see, the coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, has started wearing this mask that only has one strap that goes around the back of his neck, as you see here. And I thought, how in the world is he doing that? And I realized, I think he's wearing a mask that has two straps, but he's sort of taken one off. It looks like it's sort of hanging down around the bottom. Instead, I came up with a version here, this mask that goes on your face, and the strap goes down around the back of your neck. And I've added a wire in for the nose, and you see how it pulls? And look at that. I have plenty of room for my mouth in there. It holds on, it pulls down here on the sides to really hook it on the nose. And this is actually one of the most comfortable masks I've ever worn. So I'm gonna show you now how to make it. Why don't you come down to the cutting table and I'll show you what we need to get started. All right, we're gonna need a couple pieces of fabric. I'm gonna choose this really cool fabric that has cameras on it because I'm gonna give this to a friend of mine who's a photographer. And then I need another fabric for the inside as well as a lining fabric so I can have a filter pocket. And I'm just gonna make them out of the same fabrics. I'm also gonna need some elastic for around the back of the head. And then I'm gonna add a toggle to that because I can make it a long piece of elastic and then he can adjust the size that he wants. I will need a rotary cutter and maybe some type of a grid so that I can cut it out with, or I can just use a pair of scissors. Of course, I will need a junky pair of scissors, which I can't find at the moment, but I'll find it before we get started, that's gonna cut our flexible tie, because I'm gonna use this for a nose wire. This is the stuff I buy at Dollar Tree, and I talked about it in another video, and I'll show you a couple tricks of how to do this for the nose wire, or you could get one of the nose wire pieces that either can slide in, or you can peel off the sticker and stick it in. I'm also gonna need something to turn the whole fabric with. I like this stiletto from Fons and Porter. You can also use chopstick. Just go to your local Asian restaurant and eat something there and use some chopsticks. I will need a pattern as well, and this pattern is exactly the same top and bottom. So I've cut this one out of freezer paper so I can just iron it down and lightly affix it. And then of course, I'm gonna use my really cool Home Ever iron. So that's everything that we need to get started. Let's go ahead and start cutting our fabric. Now, I've gone ahead and ironed this fabric out. And what I love about doing it this way is that using this freezer paper, I can see through it, or if I had a clear template, I could sort of fussy cut where I want those images to be. So I really want this nice old-timey camera here. And I want to make sure I get maybe a new camera as well. So if I can find a place where those would be on... Actually, I like a Polaroid. I think he would love a Polaroid. So I'm going to go here and cut this one out. Now, I could just use a little bit of my iron there to affix it. And that just activates the material on the other side of the freezer paper to hook it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut around that with my rotary cutter. Now you could just draw on this. You could, if you really loved making this pattern, you could cut it out of acrylic, like, you know, my company makes acrylic templates. I have a company called Artisan Laser Guild, and we do acrylic templates. In fact, we just shipped our 900th acrylic template for the 3 other masks that we, designs that we create with acrylic. Isn't that exciting? So that we just did the other day. So there's one piece, and I'm gonna peel that off. Just peel it off the back. That's gonna be one side. And then I want this old-timey camera right here. So now one is gonna go like this, so the other one will have to be the opposite side, right? So I'll make sure it's sort of centered. I can see it through there. See, and I need to make sure I leave it far enough away from the edges because I will have seam allowances stitched. So, and now I'm only using very little of this heat, so I don't mind putting it on my cutting table. But if not, you could use a press cloth or something. And I'm not going to move it from here. I'm literally just going to grab my cutting piece, my rotary cutter. Now this is a very large. It's a 60mm rotary cutter. And so it's kind of hard to cut corners like that. You might want to use like a 45 or a 30 even, the much smaller ones to do this. Now this area where it's just a straight edge on the bottom here, that's where we put in the elastic. All right, so I've got those 2 pieces fussy cut. Here and here, I'll go ahead and peel off the paper. So those are going to go for the front of the face. I'll set those aside. I'm going to pull my press mat over here. It's just a wool pressing mat. And I'm going to use my other fabric. This is that brown fabric that I'm using for the lining and the filter pocket. So I'm going to put it right sides together, just like that. Press out, press that seam in there. Fold that off to the side. Do the same thing with the other piece of fabric, right? Right sides together. Just get a seam in there so I can stack these up. So then I'm going to stack them up on just the cutting surface. No, sorry, no, still on the pressing surface because I need to press the pattern down. So then I go put my pattern piece on there. Make sure it fits just on the top one, because then we'll go through all of them. You may have seen one of the other videos. I got this iron as a gift from my friend Ryan, and oh my goodness, I didn't think it was going to make this much steam. It's amazing. So I won't use steam on that though, because this is just adhering the plastic. But it's a great iron. So there's a link in the description for where to buy one if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and chop this out, being very careful that I know that I have basically 4 layers of fabric, 2 here and 2 there. I'm just going to be super careful as I do it. And then I'm going to let them stay together because I'm going to sew those pieces that I put right side to right side, the ones that I folded in half. They're going to get sewn together. I'm going to have 3 full sets sewn together. Now, if I was going to make a lot of these, and I don't know that I have enough people that want these as their masks, then I would most likely cut this out of an acrylic template. It's such a small piece that it would be easy to do. Make sure you keep them all stacked up. Obviously, I have got a flat tire on my rotary cutting blade here. But I would do it out of an acrylic template because that would be super easy to be able to fussy cut like I showed you with the other. All right, so I'm going to peel that paper off of the fabric. All right, so we have one set that we're going to sew together along the curve, another set we're going to sew together along the curve, and then our major set that we're going to sew together along the curve. The first thing I need to do, though, is before I go anywhere, I need to cut my filter pocket to the right size. So that means one of these is going to be the lining for the interior, and the other is going to be the filter pocket. And I'm just going to cut off about 1.5 inches on this one. The way I'm going to do that is turn it around. And remember, I'm sort of doing this upside down to you. I would line up and put the measurement at 1.5 down here on this edge. See here? 1.5. So that's 1 inch and 1/2 inch. And then I'm just going to cut that off, and then this will get, once it's sewn together, these will each get folded in and flattened. All right, it's time to take all of our pieces and go to the sewing machine and do some sewing. Come with me. So I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is the width of my presser foot. And I'm going to just put these right sides together. Now you could pin these or clip them. In fact, I'll get some clips right now. I have these, they call them Wonder Clips. They're so nice. They're real simple to use. I'm going to use those clips, and I'll just put a couple of clips on this to keep it straight because you want to make sure it starts and ends, you know, accurately. So I will go ahead and put a clip or 2 on here. Now they're going to come off as I'm sewing, and even if I was pinning, I would also take them off as I was sewing. This fabric is a little bit stretchy because isn't just cut with the grain of the fabric, it's actually cut at an angle, and it could stretch as you went through. So you really want to make sure you clip that together or pinned it together to keep everything straight. So I'll come in here and just start at the top. I'm back stitching. So I always give these tutorials as if you might be new at sewing because maybe you are. Maybe this is the first mask you've ever made. You decided you want to be like that football coach Andy Reid and do it yourself. So I don't think he made it, but you want to wear one like him. So I backstitch to the top and the bottom so that when I'm moving and pulling and turning this, the stitching is not going to come out. And this is how we're going to get that shape that comes around the face. Now you could come along and clip all of these. You could get a pair of scissors and clip, but I will tell you that if you did that, if you clipped all these really close to the threads, I'm a little worried about it putting holes right here where your mouth and your nose is. And even though this mask is not designed to keep you from sucking anything in. It's really to keep you from spitting out large droplets that would have, you know, any kind of a virus. I still don't want to put any holes around here. So I'm literally just going to, once these are done, I'm going to come in here and just sort of press it open with my fingers. Just come along here and press that open. Not really hard to do. In fact, there's a couple of YouTube video makers who make a lot of mask videos, and the lady has really nice fingernails, and she comes along and does this every time she opens this rounded seam. She likes to make these rounded masks. It's one of those videos where they just play music the whole time. Interesting masks, though. She makes some really fun masks, so you should check her out. Right now, I can't think of her name, but if I can think of it while I'm editing the video, I'll add it in. All right, so you do that all the way around. So that just kind of flattens that out a little bit so it doesn't create. So I'm going to do the other two. Now remember, one of these is the one that we're going to do a filter pocket as the filter pocket. So it's going to be a little different sizing than the other one. Again, a couple clips just to hold it in place to make sure nothing moves. Back stitch at the front. All right, and you could do the same with this one. You could go in and press it open with your fingers, which I will try to do without being able to see it here for you. You're just pulling those fabrics open and just pressing as you go down. I'm using a finger underneath and a finger on top, and you could go through and open this entire thing. Last one we're gonna do, and I'm gonna do it without pinning this one or even using clips. And I'm just running the fabric right along the edge of this presser foot. Now the last thing I need to do is I do need to come in here and fold these over 1/4 inch and stitch them down. So I'm just going to use my finger and finger press those down like that. And then if I flip over, I can use the other one as measurement to see how wide to make this one. And then I'll just come stitch each of these down. Now don't stitch them together like this because then it'll be closed. You got to open it up. See how it's now opened? And I can come along and stitch. Now if you want to get real particular, you could use a matching thread. This is black thread with brown fabric, but that's really up to you. I think they're both dark, and so they're not as noticeable. And in fact, I'm going to be using a black elastic anyway. No, I'm using white elastic. I could use black elastic because the different fabrics here do have some black in there, and I think it would look fine to do that. I could also choose an orange elastic or something if I had any. I don't, so I'm going to use a black elastic for that. I'm white. I'm going to use white because it'll match, but I could use black. All right, so these are the pieces done. We have a lining pocket. A filter pocket, an interior lining, and of course our pretty outside fabric. So let's figure out how we're gonna put these together to create our sandwich. Before we put all this together, I do need a piece of elastic, and I'm gonna cut a piece of this 11 inches. Actually, I'm gonna do 12, and then I'm gonna put a toggle on it, one of these toggles, so that he can adjust the size. So I'm gonna cut this 12 inches, and I just go down to my table, and I can see there are measurements down here at the bottom, and it lets me decide how far this is. So I'm going to choose a 12-inch piece right there, and I'm going to turn the outside lining fabric here, sort of flatten it out a little bit so I can see, and I'm going to use some clips, which I have to get from over there. Yep, here we go. I'm going to clip this elastic piece right here along the side. I'll do it so the cameras are up for you. I'm just going to clip that on there right in the center along that edge. And then I'm going to make sure it stays flat as we go across so it doesn't twist behind. And then I'll put another clip over there. Now I'm going to be moving these clips as we go along, but it's just nice to have that in place. And the next thing to put on is going to be our pocket. And the pocket is going to face in toward the pretty fabric, because these are going to be opposite from one another when we turn it inside out. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and open up that seam like we did, And then this other seam was opened up as well. So we can line those right up on top of one another and put the stitches right there together. And then I'll put a clip here to hold that in. All right, now there won't be any clips along the edges yet because that'll be when we put the other fabric on. So I'm going to clip this one down. And then it's nice because I have that other edge here, and I can do that right at the, line that to the top up here. So I'll put it in. See how we're doing that? We're going to get those really close together. So I'll make sure that they are both open and that the middle stitch goes between each of them. See how that goes? And then I will give that a connection there. And the same thing, I can put that, the other clips here and here. Oh, looking so good. All right, so that's what I've gotten so far. I have the filter pocket facing right sides, pretty sides together to the lining fabric, or to the outer fabric down below. The last thing I'm gonna do is take this lining fabric and open it up. And the nice thing is this is symmetrical, top to bottom. It's the same exact design, top to bottom. So it doesn't matter which side I put in. I will open it up, flatten my little seams out again, just make sure they're flat. And you could, if you wanted, come in with the iron and do this if you really felt like you needed to hand press it with an iron. But I'm just gonna use my fingers to open those up. And they'll open up when I go to pin them in or to clip them in as well. So when I do this, I'm gonna make sure that the fabric, the pretty fabric is open, and shove that in as well. So I'll put these together and line all three of those up. All three of those, and put that clip back on. Ooh. Yeah, looking good. Make sure all the fabrics stay flat. And then I'm gonna just shortcut to the sides here and do the same thing. Go to the side without taking the clip off. Now I'll hold all three layers. I have the fabric, and the elastic inside. Hold them all together and then just reposition the clip. Same thing on this side. I'm going to position my corners where I can see they go together. Then hold my finger through all three layers of the fabric so that elastic's not going anywhere. And then bam, right down through it. Perfect. And then I can transfer those other clips as well by holding all of the fabrics with this hand and putting the clips through. Right? Look at that. Look how nice that's going together. All right, and the last thing I want to do is make sure that I either mark or am aware of the place where I want to turn all of this inside out, and it needs to be along one of the long edges. So I'll just pick a long edge where I'm going to do that, and I can either mark it with a pen, or I could just in my head remember that as I sew around this, I need to leave a section open so I can turn this inside out. So there's our little deflated football, so to speak. And we're ready to go back over to the sewing machine and put all this together. All right, here at the machine, I need to start sewing somewhere along here and then come back around. So I'm gonna start sewing right here and go down the edge, go around and come back just to where this pink one is, and then leave that section open. So what I need to make sure I do is hold all of these fabrics together right here, and then take that clip out once I'm ready. So I'm gonna start a little bit around the corner. I like to have my stitch length at about a 2 and my needle in the down position. If your machine comes with that ability, make sure it stays in the down position. When I take that clip off, I need to make sure I have a finger here holding that elastic in place because it will move. I come to the edge, turn it, and then I'm really gonna reset that elastic in there with a couple of back stitches so it doesn't come out. Now you could, if you wanted, elongate these edges. You could elongate these sides and make little tabs that come off and then just loop your elastic in so that you could take it out later if you wanted to. I'll tell you, people tend to, if they wear their mask out, that they just get another one or buy another one, or I make them another one. So I don't mind putting the elastic in at the beginning. So again, I'm holding down all of these fabrics after I take the clips out so they all stay in place where they need to be. The nice thing about the clip is, unlike a pin, which I could run over a pin with my sewing machine, I really can't run over this clip with my sewing machine, so I kind of have to go slow and take my time, which many of you may know I don't like doing. I have this fast machine and I want it to go fast. All right, again, I'm remembering that I have to leave a section open near the end as I come back around. So when I get back to that pink one, I'm gonna stop. And I just backed up there because I wasn't sure I'd gotten the right fabric. And again, I'm pushing all of these fabrics down and holding them in place until they go under the machine. And then when I get to this pink one, yep, I'm gonna back stitch there so that when I turn this inside out, I don't rip anything. Take it out, and now I have stitched all the way around my football. Might be easier to see on this side, except I've left that particular opening. Now here again, you could come and clip if you wanted to, but I find that with this small 1/4" seam allowance and it's just this quilting cotton, it's not really all that necessary. But if you wanted to, you want to trim it closer, or you could come in, here's what you would do. You would take your scissors on a curve and you would clip to within about a 1/16 of an inch of the stitching, but don't go through the stitching. That could be a problem. So you see I've sort of cut that little mark there. And you could do that all around your curves. It's like called easing the curves, but I don't really think it's necessary, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Now it's time to turn this football inside out. In fact, this looks very much like the way they sew a football together, except they have seams running the football width, length, sort of. Right now, as I turn it inside out, you're gonna see that it's possible that your pocket also turns inside out. So just make sure you flip that back the right direction. You want to make sure that you don't see the inside of that pocket fabric. And you can use your elastic to help pull out your turn. So I'm going to turn this, the rest of it inside out. Ooh, look at that. It's starting to come together. And there we have outer layer, inner layer, and then that filter pocket. The filter pocket is going to be really important because when we put in the nose wire, it's going to go up in this filter pocket, which is really great. Now I will have to turn this hole inside and stitch it as well. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use my turning device, and I think I'll use the chopstick today. And I'm going to put it in that hole that I made. See the hole there? And I'm going to go all the way down to the point that needs to point out where the elastic is, and I'm just going to make sure I push those corners out. See, I'm pushing those corners out there. Right, and then I'm just going to run it. I'm going to use this hand to pull the fabric back, and I'm going to run it through each of those seams just to get that nice and flat. Same thing on the other side, and I'll switch hands this way. Point that little corner out down here. If I can get my, there we go, down there. And then just use it to pull that fabric out. Pull that fabric. Same thing at this point, make sure your points stick out. Sometimes they call this a point turner. And then of course I just pull on each side of this little seam and it'll sort of fold those fabrics right in where they need to go so that we can top stitch it in a minute. Now I'm gonna go over to the iron and just give this a bit of a press. It's hard to do because it's all rounded, but it will flatten those sides out. So let's go over to the iron. All right, I bring the iron here and I'm going to very carefully set this seam here where set that turn where I'm gonna turn the fabric. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a pull like I said before. And I'm gonna use an edge stitch that'll stitch this into place. So I just wanna press it to make sure everything stays on the inside. Use my iron there just to press. Little steam, I love some steam, y'all know that. Oh, look how flat that did it. And then I'm just gonna do all the edges as I go around. See here, just kind of getting in there. You really can't lay this thing flat because it's not a flat mask. So you just kind of have to half cup it around like this. You know, just keep going. And that'll help flatten out all of those pieces. And see, look what it does is it's turned all of these pieces in. Press it with your fingers, right? And you can, if you want, now turn it just like this because it is a half and half folded thing. And if you want to, you could give it a little press this way too if you really felt like you needed to. Flatten it out like this. Ooh, this is a very thick mass actually because it has so many layers in it. It's got 6 layers of fabric right here. 3 on, you know, 3 folded in half. Look at that. All right, now we go back to the sewing machine and we're gonna put in the nose wire and we're gonna edge stitch the whole outside. All right, so I'm gonna use this special wire that I get from the Dollar Tree and I'm gonna, wait. You know, I was editing this video today and I realized that some of the shots that are coming up right now, they're way too close up and it's really hard to see around my hand. So instead, what I have done is come back to my workshop and I'm gonna shoot part of that again using another mask that I've created, very similar, just it doesn't have the little cameras on it. And I'm going to show you the next part with this mask because it's going to make a lot. It's going to make it a lot easier for you to follow. And then I'll cut back at the end to the finishing part of the video that I shot like a week ago. All right, so let's go down to my sewing machine with a better shot so you can see a little more closely. And we'll start this part again. You may notice also that I'm wearing this glove today. I've been doing some cutting with the Rotary Cutter, and this is a glove that keeps you from like it helps you if your Rotary Cutter comes off. It's got metal infused into it. These are great gloves to wear, but I had a crush injury on my hand this week, and I don't want you to see all the bandages and stuff as it's healing, so I'm going to use this gloves to make it look a little better. Now, what I want to do is on this mask, I want to put a nose wire in this top edge, and that'll help it to bend it over my my nose, and that I'm going to put it through the filter pocket and then trap it in the filter pocket there. So I need to cut a piece of nose wire that's about the same size as this piece here. So I'm just using the flexible tie garden wire that I use from the Dollar Tree. And of course, this is my version that I really love. You can use whichever kind you want, or you can leave a little opening. If you wanted to sew that channel right along here and just leave an opening for it to slide into, you could. And in fact, I'm going to show you that. I think that's a better idea. So I'm going to first, before I do that, I'm going to top stitch from here all the way around the very bottom and back to the other edge over here where the opening of that pocket is. So let's do that first. So I'll start in down here, but I'm not going to connect the pocket. So the pocket can't get stitched down. And edge stitching means that I'm going to use the very, I'm going to go right up to the edge of the fabric as I do it. Now I'm using a matching, a different thread, a black thread. So when I flip this over on the white, you're really going to see it going through. But as long as I do a good job of edge stitching really close, it should look nice. I'm doing it so you'll really see the contrast when I flip it over. And this is maybe where you take your time to make it nice and pretty. Now remember, I'm going to go all the way down across the filter pocket down here because this is going to be the bottom of the mask, the bottom edge. Now sometimes edge stitching is the kind of thing you want to do on the side where you're worried about what it looks like. But I also have to make sure that we don't catch the pocket at the top at all. So I want to do this on this side so I don't catch the pocket. And maybe you go back and forth over the elastic parts. And I'm just getting myself right up to that point as close as I can. Okay, good. Now, of course, what I have to remember to do is not catch this pocket. So I'm going to stop just before the pocket. So I'm going to lay that out so I can stitch right up to the pocket. Yeah, there we go. Look at that, how good that looks. And on this side, you can see that it stitches all the way around, but it ends up here in the top portion. And then I'm going to come along and top stitch that. Now, what I need to do is measure how big I want that piece to be. So I'm going to come with my piece here and sort of measure in how big that would be. So I think it would go to about there. Let me cut that with my not so perfect scissors. I just dropped them on the floor, so I have to go find them again. There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here where I had stopped, right at this point, and I'll find that stitch. I'm going to go down the outside of the pocket, so I'm not actually stitching into the pocket. Go down just a little bit, and then you want to create your channel for it to be able to push into. I'm picking a little over 3/8 of an inch, so it's almost a full ½ inch stitch here. And I'm using the line on my the plate on my sewing machine. And in fact, I'll show you from this angle. See, I'm using the line on the plate there to get the right measurement. And that's going to hopefully give us a big enough channel that I can put my piece through. And then I'm going to stitch off the end of that pocket, see there? Just off the end. And then I can stitch back to the top, and this will just help on the other side. Yeah. Let me show you what that looks like. So see, that's done, that's connected the two pieces on the outside. And obviously if I used a matching thread, it would look a little better. And then when I can come in, I'm gonna have to trim that little piece of thread there. You see that piece of thread that's coming off of there. And now I can take my piece that I cut, remember the piece that I cut the same measurement? And I can feed that into the pocket here. See here, I can feed it. I have to sort of pop it open there. And it's gonna feed into my pocket. Now this is hard to do with my hand injury. I was moving some grocery store shelving at my office. It's the kind of shelving that you that they have in grocery stores, and we use it to store some stuff on. And unfortunately, one of the large uprights was leaning against the wall, and something jostled it while I was on the ground trying to, working on the ground. And it slammed right down on my hand. And unfortunately, it really hurt. And so I am injured, and it's healing, but it just, it doesn't look that great. So it's hard to do with this hand actually, because it's hard to move some of the fingers. But anyway, you're gonna put that nose wire in there, and that'll create that shape. So let's go back to the actual video I made last week and see how I finished that one up. Well, there you go. Look what we've done. We've created that really cool mask with the filter pocket on the inside, right? So you can add a filter if you want. And then it needs to just have its toggle put on. So the toggles that I buy always come with a little bobby pin, which is great because I stopped using bobby pins a very long time ago. So I'm going to use a little white toggle, one of those little white toggles. See here, and the bobby pin that they send along. And so what we do first is we find the center of the elastic. So I'm stretching it out, and I put the bobby pin right through that center. And sometimes if you just hold it and let it find its center point, that works out fine too. Then I squeeze that little bobby pin together, and I push the toggle over the bobby pin, just like that. Then I pull down, or you can use a regular bobby pin, or you can even use a small crochet hook, whatever you want. Now there's the mask. How cute is that? And if I wanted to, I could add the filter in. Of course, this one you'll know which side is up because it's got cameras in a certain direction, but it also has that wire at the nose. And then all you do is pull it around your head and put it in the back of your neck like that. And then lift it up to the nose. Oh, look how good this is gonna look. I pinch it over my nose with that nose wire. And there's the mask. I'm gonna tell you, I have a lot of room for my mouth in here. And in fact, this one's a little small. For me, I might put a bigger one, but I made it for a friend of mine who has a little bit smaller face than I do. I mean, my chin is kind of not making a huge amount of space, but if I was really going wide, it might pull open. So you might consider making it a little bit bigger for someone's head. And then of course I can adjust that elastic piece if I wanted it to be tighter. This isn't going anywhere. I'm actually pretty impressed, and it is not fogging up my glasses, mostly because it has that wire in there for the nose. So let me give you my ratings for this particular one. My ratings, so in terms of comfort, yeah, pretty good. I gotta tell you, it's actually not terribly uncomfortable. I had one on earlier, this particular one I had made, the blue one, that I wore for about an hour, and it felt pretty good. It was nice not to have something pulling on my ears, so I can see why Coach Andy Reid wears one of these. In terms of construction, I mean, it's not the easiest one to construct. So if you're brand new to sewing, maybe this is not the exact right one for you because it's got a lot of curves and things you have to really keep together. But I gotta tell you, for construction, it's not much different than others. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. So comfort, I didn't answer that. I'm gonna give it like a 9 out of 10 for comfort. That's pretty great. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 for ease of construction, only because there's so many layers. And if I was making a smaller one, that would have a filter pocket and a nose wire. It's a little bit more advanced, so a little bit more work, 8 out of 10. And then I think for efficiency, for what it's going to do, I mean, it really is holding on to my face. And it doesn't have any gaps on the side because that elastic is pulling it. It is held right here on my nose. It is around my chin. I mean, if I was thinking about something with I'm going to give this for efficiency a 10 out of 10. I think it's very effective. The efficacy is a 10 out of 10. So that's pretty good ratings for how to make this. It's a pretty decent mask, and I can just wear it around my neck when I'm not using it and pop it right back up. Oh, so much easier on the ears. So I hope you love making this mask with me. Please like and subscribe, join the channel, do all that sort of stuff. Watch the other videos, of course. And until next time, stay crafty. Bye for now. Ooh. Man, now I can pretend I am a football coach. All right, first down.